Our commissioner, go ahead and stand up, Roger. Eyeball everybody. Let's see who we have here. We have Sheriff Rick Dunlap. Sheriff. And Keith Caddy, is he here? I don't see any shiny heads like mine. And then Mark Kaplan, please stand up. Mark Kaplan. Any other, Rosemary, where are you hiding? Sorry, there you go, Rosemary. All right, so now you guys sat down very quickly, so I'll forego my jokes. Now we'll have our sheriff candidates. Please come forward.
It's on your page, which is fine.
And in like manner, we'll go ahead and start. We'll have Adam, please go ahead and begin with your remarks.
20 minutes? Minus 15? I don't think I could talk for 20 minutes anyway. I'll watch, Steve, I'll watch. First of all, like everybody else, I thank you for coming to listen to the candidates this evening and educating yourselves on the issues. I am Adam Murdie, your candidate for Montrose County Sheriff. My wife Robbie and I have two boys one works full-time in Delta and the other is a student at the University of Wyoming, currently working for the summer. He's attending this evening. Thank you. I've been a wildland firefighter, EMT. I've been on search and rescue. I'm a private pilot, although I haven't medicaled for a while, and a law enforcement professional for many years. I worked as a reserve deputy in Gunnison County for a few years prior to my work here at the Montrose County Sheriff's Office over the past 21 years. My entire law enforcement career has been at a statutory sheriff's office. This does not mean we just handle state statute or county ordinances. It means we are governed by the state and mandated our existence. The police department of the city exists by charter. The sheriff is a duly elected official that has to perform about 35 individual statutory requirements for the citizens in the confines of Montrose County. He is the only constitutional and the #1 law enforcement agency in those confines of the county when he is elected. The sheriff sets policy for the entire sheriff's office and is the final say in the hiring and disciplinary actions of all personnel. Since being here, I've worked in almost every facet of the sheriff's office, from the jail to the undersheriff and most positions in between. I too have thousands of hours of law enforcement training in law enforcement administration as well. And just a couple more classes to finish up my associate's degree in criminal justice. We are undergoing a change in the jail currently, in which a remodel is in the works to bring our county jail closer to meet classification and ADA requirements and meeting the mental health needs of all the inmates and the ever-changing state and federal laws that are being governed on us. I believe in working the inmates when we're allowed. I believe that the inmates, if they have jobs outside, should be working if they're not violent offenders and they meet the requirements for work release. All of our employees need continuing training and success. Training in today's standards is a must and is part of a succession planning effort at the Montrose County Sheriff's Office. We will not be around forever, and the employees will need to be prepared to pick up where we leave off. School safety is a very complex issue, and it's on all of our minds. We've talked about it here just a little bit ago. With the school district doing their part in a cooperative effort put together by both the Sheriff's Office and the police departments, within our communities, I feel we can have great success. My thought is to work closer with our partners, and it does not matter what school a deputy or an officer is in, they can cover them all if necessary. I've already increased West End position by 1, which will work as a school resource officer and a deputy in the off-season to increase the law enforcement presence on the West End. I've spent a lot of time in the West End and have taken the opportunity to educate myself of their needs as well. I will continue to strive to keep up with this community in all aspects. I feel that we target drug dealers well in the community, but can only hold them at bay. With one more defined expectation of our deputies and progressive mandatory training, I feel we can do more. And this will be a priority when I am elected sheriff. Targeting the user-level person and getting the district attorneys and judges to prosecute these cases will drive the users to get the assistance they need. Staying involved in the anti-bullying programs in the schools, keeping involved in the community to stay in touch with their needs is crucial. I am Adam Murdie, and I appreciate you all being here and the support in the primary election coming up in June.
Good evening. Thank you for all attending tonight. My name is Gene Lillard. I'm a candidate for Montrose County Sheriff. I have over 42 years of law enforcement experience. Started my law enforcement career at age 18 from Platte County Sheriff's Office through Fort Lewis College. I attended Durango at Fort Lewis on a wrestling scholarship, and at that time I worked as a jailer in civil service, patrol, also working sting operations in Bayfield and around the area. I was hired in Montrose in 1976 and have promoted through the ranks. I have never just been appointed to a position. I have literally thousands of hours of specialized training, just to name a few. I'm a graduate of the FBI National Academy, which only 0.1% of all law enforcement officers in the United States are invited to attend. I'm a graduate of the Northwestern University Police Staff and Command. I'm a graduate of the Southwest Command College of Law Enforcement Executive Management. I have a certificate from the Southern Police Institute at the University of Louisville in police management. I hold basic, intermediate, advanced, and supervisory proficient certificates from Colorado Peace Officer Standards and Training. I hold basic, intermediate, advanced, and command SWAT certificates. I'm a graduate of Texas A&M University Advanced SWAT School. As SWAT commander, I have personally led over 60 operations that were high risk and with no injuries and no deaths to my officers. I've served as the interim chief for the Olathe Police Department for 5 months. Correction on that, Uray Police Department. For 5 months, I helped restructure that organization and also reorganize. I want you to compare my training with that of my opponent. You will see the difference. I spent 17 years in patrol and in administration as a commander. I've worked on budgets, which were multi-million-dollar budgets. I have been a supervisor 37 out of 42 years. I supervise code enforcement, detectives, victims advocates, evidence, animal services. I've also been directly involved with hiring and firing and promotions throughout my career. I also have 42 years of common sense. I'm a people person. I treat employees and citizens with respect, honesty, and integrity. I expect the employees to perform their duties to the letter of the law with a high degree of integrity, compassion, and professionalism. As your sheriff, I will do the same. I believe every part of this county deserves quality law enforcement, from Paradox to Mayor. As sheriff, I will support the following. Make safety in our schools the #1 priority. We need to look into this, whether it be putting more SROs into the office of the schools or whatever, but it needs to be addressed. I've worked with the county administration, school district, and have been on board with them since the inception, whenever the school shootings were starting up. I believe that taking aggressive approach on drugs with the drug task force. I also believe in a one standalone dispatch center. This will save the taxpayers millions of dollars. I believe in additional manpower in the West End. Last but not least, I believe in our Second Amendment rights. In closing, the residents of Montrose County have faith in my leadership ability, my reputation, and my dedication to the job. Some of the issues that we're looking at in the jail, as far as staffing issues go, we need to have weekly staff meetings in the jail, have open lines of communication, which are very essential. Suicides they're not to happen. They should not happen. They should never happen. 2016, Dylan Blodgett. 2017, Robert James Peterson. 2018, Clinton Mitchell. Prior to this one inmate jumped to his death from the upper level. It's our responsibility to keep track of these people, make sure that they're safe and not in harm's way. This would happen by working with mental health, making sure that the entire staff will work with mental health and deal with the problems before it happens. Community safety. The rapid growth in our community is upon us, as you all know, so prepare as soon as possible. We have more drugs, more domestic violence, more burglaries, more car thefts than we've ever had. So I'm running out of time, so my name is Gene Lillard, and please support me as Montrose County Sheriff. Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for questions. Same as the last time, we'll have questions from the audience. Rick will be standing here with a mobile microphone. Please do not address one candidate or the other. Please address both candidates. If you are not able to come up to the mic, please raise your hand, and able and willing Rick will run over and give you that microphone.
Before the dispatch split in 2016, were you for or against it, and why?
When it did split, I was for the split. The reason why was because the county was charging us an exorbitant amount of money to run the dispatch center with the Montrose Police Department. It jumped from $505,000 to a little somewhere in the neighborhood of $707,000 in 1 year. We had no say-so on how the dispatch center was ran. We did have a board of directors, but the sheriff at that time said we could have a board of directors, but the final say-so was his on how Montrose County Dispatch is ran. Since then, Wesco was up and running. It is not an entity of the city of Montrose. It is a standalone dispatch center. It is made up of the users that use the Montrose or use Wesco Dispatch. They have some say-so on the hiring and firing, and that's the way that is.
Oh, I was against it. And I think it's pretty obvious as to why. This community doesn't deserve to have to pay twice as much as what it should be paying for the same service. Worse or better service, call it what you may. Montrose Regional Dispatch at the Sheriff's Office had been running for 20 years, and it was very professional the whole time. There was never any issues, as stated by the people that wanted to make and form Wesco. In the minutes of the meetings, it wasn't about the money, it was about the control and having a say in what they wanted to be able to do with the people that work there. We can pull the minutes up and revisit that. That's not too big of an issue. I did a Cora request a number of months ago for all the information back from those days. But my theory on it is not what did happen, it's what needs to happen. We need to mush through all this stuff and get it put back together and make it a cooperative effort for the citizens and the taxpayers of this community.
My question is a third-party question, so I'm going to read part of it. Under your umbrella, you've got fire management, search and rescue, and the sheriff's posse. Can you address and tell us what your experience is with each of those three things, and how do you continue to, or how you plan to continue to use them?
You need another phone, Rick. I've got quite a history as far as fire management goes. In my younger years, right out of high school, I worked for the Forest Service as a wildland firefighter. I worked my way up to a engine foreman, engine boss, supervisor, and a fire behavior analyst. I've been involved with search and rescue on multiple different stages as far as working the ground with Monarch Pass Search and Rescue out of Gunnison. That's where I grew up. Down to the point here at the Sheriff's Posse, working with them on the ground and helping them in any way we can. The Sheriff's Posse here in Montrose is definitely the most essential organization to the Sheriff that we have available, because we're statutorily required to perform wildland fire service on private property in the unincorporated areas of Montrose County. And we're statutorily required to perform search and rescue in the unincorporated areas of Montrose County. So that's my background and experience in wildland fire search and rescue and working with our sheriff's posse locally.
Thank you. I've attended the St. Louis Fire Academy in St. Louis, Missouri for a week. I've got a lot of experience there. We don't fight a lot of fires in Montrose, in the city of Montrose. We assist the fire department, but as far as that goes, we don't do a lot of firefighting. I understand that the sheriff of the county is the fire marshal. Leave the firefighting to the firefighters. The sheriff is the overall authority for that. Posse, I strongly believe in it. The wife and I have donated money to the posse in the past, and it was not for political ambitions or whatever. We strongly believe in the posse, because there may be a day that I might need the posse myself. So I strongly believe in the posse, and it's a very, very sure thing that they need to stick around.
Next question.
In the real near future, I'm going to be working with one of you. What's your plans for the next 5 years for the Montrose County Sheriff's Office?
Plans for the future. That's what I strongly believe in. I've worked my entire career for this position. I'm ready to move on and try something bigger and better, and I want to be the next sheriff. I can tell you that we need to prepare for that, prepare for the future, prepare for the growth that we're going to have in Montrose County, east and also the west end. The hemp industry in the west end, it may take off. I think we need to have more officers out there in the west end for them to be prepared for that. Financially, I think the public safety sales tax is a good thing for the sheriff's department. It's very important. It has infused a lot of money into the sheriff's department, and it needs to be used wisely. And as your sheriff, I will be very frugal with the money.
My plans for the expansion, keep up, and continue pushing forward. We're a little behind times at the jail there, and that is one of the priorities, not necessarily for more beds, but to meet the requirements, like I said earlier, for the ADA classification and the mental health issues we have here in town. Pushing forward, trying to keep up with the day-to-day changes, the new legislation and technology, and everything that comes down from the feds, whether it's funded or unfunded, has always been difficult. And I think we've done a rather good job of completing that task over the years. The public safety sales tax is an influx of money for the sheriff's office. You all voted that in about 12 years ago. It's been great for the community. It brought the sheriff's office, out of the doldrums from way back and brought us into the times that we see now with equipment and personnel and the amount of people that we have available to put out on the street.
Okay, next question.
Yeah, thank you both for running. I'd like to dig a little deeper into this dispatch issue. Gene, you are familiar with the Wesco model, where you have a board and you have lots of input, and Adam, you are basically, dealing with the sheriff's department, where the sheriff makes the decisions and so on. And I think the separation has caused poor customer service, and it's also caused a degree of officer safety concerns. I'm unclear as to which model are we going to go to if we come back together. We're going to use a users board and have input from the users, or are we going back to the sheriff take the input and then the sheriff will decide? Could you clear that up for me?
Well, I can tell you what my thoughts are on the subject. Back in November this last year, we started talking with Wesco to try to see what it would look like in 2019 if the centers were to come back together. I don't personally have an issue with them being under a board. I actually had no disagreement with that in the first part. The problem that we had was trying to negotiate how that was going to land. So for the future proceedings, I believe wholeheartedly it can go under the board, and that would be perfect, because in all actuality, that takes the liability almost completely off the sheriff, where he's carrying the entire liability of that dispatch center as it is. Even though we have very professional people in there and running it, there's still a large liability that goes with it. And if all the users can share that liability, that would be the best place for it to be.
If elected as sheriff and working for the sheriff's department, we would have to ask Wesco to come on board. It would not be an automatic thing. The ball would not be in the sheriff's, or would not be in Wesco's court, it would be in the sheriff's department's court, whether or not they wanted, or the sheriff's office, if they wanted to come on board. So it's very important that we look at those things. 2019 is coming up very rapidly, and I'm in agreement that we should definitely have a standalone dispatch center that's governed by a board of directors, which would be the users, which would be the sheriff, the chiefs from the surrounding areas that are on board with that. But it's very important that we do that. And once again, I say it will save the taxpayers money. Thank you.
Next question.
Could you please address our budget and how the Sheriff's Department arrives at the budget? Who all is involved? What is the process? And what do we as citizens need to know about how you will go forward with that budget process?
I am not familiar with the sheriff's office budget, but I am familiar with the city of Montrose's budget within the police department. I've worked the budgets for 17 years as a commander on both the administration and the patrol side. A lot of the line items are set in place. We do studies on whether or not we need to either raise the cost on the line items or lower. We include the whole staff in regards to that, so it's important that we do that, so we know exactly how much money we spend. This is then sent to the city staff, and they in turn go through with it and finalize it, and then it is given over to the city council, and they vote on whether or not the budget is appropriate or not.
Gene, I promise. At the sheriff's office, we deal in 3 different funds. We deal in the communications fund, we deal in the public safety fund, and we deal in the general fund. That's where all the funds come from that help that sheriff's office succeed in what it does for the community. During the budget process, which we actually started here not too long ago with the fleet items and going over everything as far as new vehicles coming in this year or next year in the fleet budget. Then we progressed to the fund models to kind of give us an idea of what we perceive we will need in the upcoming coming year. Then we break it down from there, and we send it out to the department heads to go through their line items and determine their needs for each division within the sheriff's office, which covers anything from court security to the jail to dispatch, patrol, admin, and a bunch of other things. So those line items, when they get done with that section, then they all come to we'll go to the undersheriff. The undersheriff will go through each individual line and determine if those needs that are requested are viable, or if they need to be upped a little, taken back down. They get back together as a group and discuss it, not unlike the city, and then send it to the commissioners after the sheriff approves whatever changes are done.
Next question. We have a question over here.
Gene and Adam, as you know, I'm not a resident of Montrose County. I'm a resident of Delta County, where I live and work for Delta County Sheriff's Office. I have a big interest in the sheriff's race up here, just basically due on cooperation. Our crooks, our criminals, are your crooks and your criminals. I just want to hear how we're going to work together when that day comes. And I had a second part question. Can you explain the difference between sheriff's office and sheriff's department and the distinct difference?
Well, the first part, I don't think the cooperation level is going to change any. We don't mind coming down and helping you guys out, and I certainly know that you guys don't mind helping us in anything that we need, whatever endeavor we have to occur to get it together. We work pretty well. Clear from the K-9, the tactical operations, or car chases, whatever you guys need. Other than the impounds, that's got to change. That's kind of an inside thing, but the difference between the sheriff's office and the sheriff's department is, in Colorado, the sheriff's department doesn't really exist. It is the office of the sheriff. He is the elected official. It's not a department of the county, and that's in case law going way back. And it is the sheriff's operation. It is funded by the county and funded by the citizens, but oversight of the budget is as far as it goes. So the cooperation level, of course, goes a lot farther than that, but that's kind of the storyline.
Thank you, Mark. Mark is running for sheriff of Delta County. Good luck. I can't even spell it. Does it feel good?
What's that?
Does it feel good to run unopposed?
It feels really good. Especially tonight.
Congratulations. Cooperation. Now, we've always had the utmost cooperation with agencies. We will go to Delta County. We'll go to any county that requests us. Our drug task force will hop on board, go to San Miguel County, Uray County, Hinsdale County, anywhere. So we will continue that operation as far as in cooperation with working with outside agencies. I believe that we all should work together. The city and the county should work together forever. We all live in the county. We all live in this. Some of us live in the city, but we all pay county and city taxes. So we're all in this together. It should not be Montrose County versus the city of Montrose. So we should work together and make it happen. I've caught myself saying Sheriff's Department a couple times, as did Under Sheriff Murdie. He knows better. It is the office of the sheriff. The sheriff is the highest elected official in the county. He is elected by the people for the people. The only person that can arrest him is the county coroner, and Canfield is not here, but I bet he will if he gets a chance. So, thank you.
Next question was over here.
Yeah, when you're talking about the budget, everybody that's ran a business knows that when you change personnel, it costs a lot of money, and so do lawsuits. So how do you plan on correcting these problems within the sheriff's office?
I think hiring personnel is probably one of the most important things you can do. Do extensive backgrounds on the people, your applicants. We've always done very thorough backgrounds on our applicants at the police department. We try to hire the best, and that would be my intentions at Montrose County, is to hire the best and make sure that they get through with that very clean. With proper training and guidance, a lot of that lawsuits could be mitigated per se. I'm sure there's some that's going to be out there without a doubt, but there's always things that you can do to put into place to assure that that may not happen. So it's a job that you really have to work at, and during my career, that's something that I have really worked on, is trying not to get sued. It's very important. It costs the taxpayers a ton of money, and it's not a good thing, besides causing a lot of embarrassment to the department and to the individuals.
Well, I can address a little bit of the hiring issue. We don't have that big of an issue hiring people either. Our turnover rates in all actuality haven't fluctuated more than 1% or 2% over the last 6 years or so. We were down a little in the jail, we're back up, just like the PP's down a little on patrol, they're back up. And that's just kind of the way it goes. It does cost a lot to train people. Costs a whole bunch to train people. So you hire the best people out of the bunch. And we do the same thing. We have very extensive hiring practices within the sheriff's office. Clear down to polygraphs, everything. I mean, I think we're exactly the same on our hiring practices as the police department almost. So as far as that goes. I kind of lost the second part of that. Could you? Oh, the lawsuits. I'll throw it out. There are 2 litigations going on at the sheriff's office at this time. One out of the jail on the Blodgett hanging, and one on a ex-employee. I can tell you right now that any ambulance chasing attorney out there would jump on board to sue any law enforcement entity around that has any kind of an issue like that. And that's what that boils down to.
Next question.
I think one of the things that everybody agrees here is honesty and integrity. And as conservatives, that's really important. As Republicans, that honesty and integrity stay within that office. Because the sheriff's office is the epitome of law and order, honesty and integrity. So I have a question, Some people might be a little upset, but we're all wondering. That honesty and integrity falls into your workplace from your home. So my question is, have you ever turned a blind eye to corruption? And have you ever had an extramarital affair?
That's pretty short and sweet. No and no. Law enforcement's held to a higher standard. We have to hold our people to a higher standard. Corruption's not tolerated. The other one's just flat no. I've been with my wife for 20 years and don't have any plans on going anywhere else. So thank you.
The answer is no and no. I believe integrity, we've got to go by that. That's the golden rule. I've grown up with that and lived by it since I've been a police officer. I've taken the oath of office to protect the Constitution and abide by the Constitution of the United States, and I'll continue to do so.
For those asking questions, if we're missing you, I can't see you, please come closer so we can see you.
Thank you. As you have both stated, that the sheriff is the #1 law enforcement. He's our protector. He's #1. And I know you have to work with the feds now and then, but I want you to swear to God that, by God, that you will be the #1. And when they step out of line and they're not doing what you show them the exit of this county, I'd like you to swear to God to that one. Thank you.
I'm here to protect the citizens of Montrose City and County. I will work with the federal government. If there's a time that they need us for operations and stuff, I will be there for them. The BLM Forest Service, National Park Service. I think we need to work with them. I don't believe in the idea that the federal government is going to come into our town and take over. We need to be prepared for that, but I do not see that happening. The day that the Sheriff's Office is ordered to go in and take guns from our citizens, that will be the day that I will stop being a law enforcement officer.
Well, I can tell you that we work real close with our federal partners, except maybe the federal marshals. They're kind of hard-headed, but we've actually asked them to leave the county and not come back on a few occasions. We don't support them very much because of the way they do business. We do support the BLM officer because there's only one, and he's out there by himself, and we will wholeheartedly support him unless he fails to uphold the laws of Colorado for the citizens in Montrose County, and then we will ask him also to go back to his office. The situation is, you know, when a federal agent or officer, FBI or somebody like that comes in and they try to run rogue in the community, that's what it's set up for. We're not going to allow that to happen. We haven't allowed it in the past, and that's just the bottom line as far as that goes. So.
We all know that there is crime growing in Montrose County by leaps and bounds. We've seen it, we feel it. My question to you guys is, how are you going to get the DAs and the judges to work together to keep them where they belong?
That's a very good question, Charlotte. It is a very good question. I wish our district attorney was sitting in here this evening. That's been a difficult task. I think it has been for the entire 7th Judicial District. Other people would attest to that. It's a little different train of thought over there. They've got so many cases going on, and don't think I'm sticking up for them because I do not stick up for the district attorney and the way that he does things, or some of the judges or the way they're doing things. I detest some of the determinations that are made in this community by some of those folks. That's above my job. I can go do what I can do and continue to try to lobby and talk with and work with them to help them understand what we're seeing and what our community members are seeing, and the criminals that we're facing out there and the repetitive customers that we have in this community is outrageous. And I know it's in Delta, I know it's in Gunnison, Uray, San Miguel, everywhere. And that's where the vice is. It really is. I think our law enforcement officials out there, police department and sheriff's offices all around do a very good job of what they're doing. But trying to keep them in is not going well. And a little reform in the judicial branch would be well deserved.
It's a short leash. It's very important that we work with the district attorney's office. There's times that he has his hands tied financially. We still need to work with him and the judges. We are in the same barrel. We have a lot of repeat customers. For instance, we had one guy that we have arrested. We've got 63 times that he's been arrested here in the city and in the county. He keeps going through the door and out the door, so it's very frustrating to the police officers and everybody involved. So that's something that we definitely have to work on. The district attorney's office, they have the public defender's office who are, they can hire the best through the public defender's office because they have a more lucrative budget than the district attorney's office does. But you as citizens can help by raising your voice and saying, this is what we have to do. We have to make sure that these people are put behind bars, or they get some help somewhere along the line where they can be rehabilitated. And I know that's a strong word, and I haven't seen a lot of it that has happened in the past, but it does. There has been success rates. It's important that we keep fighting the battle. We still have to fight, or we still have to support our district attorney and our judges. So when the judges come up to be voted in back into office, read the material, see what they've done, look at their track record. If they're not doing the job, they need to find employment elsewhere. But as far as it goes, we need to still support the district attorney's office and still fight the battle. But we've got to keep doing it.
We have time for about 3 more questions.
I'll be real quick. Calling the follow-up onto that would be, we know community corrections is a tool that the sheriff has. Could you give us your opinions on the community corrections, whether or not you value it or not?
Community corrections, in my opinion, is a valuable tool that we can use. It has a very good success rate. I think it's probably gone from 52 to 71% or somewhere in that neighborhood. So once you have one of the clients that go into the community corrections, they're able to end up getting some type of counseling. They're able to get a GED, drug counseling, mental health counseling. There's a lot of things that can definitely help those clients. So I believe in the community corrections. I think it's a good thing. It's pretty much cost effective too. I think it's somewhere around $54 for an inmate per day in community corrections. And I might be off a little bit on those numbers, but I believe in community corrections. I also believe in the fact that work release needs to be reinstated back at the sheriff's office. That building is the work release building, and I believe it's a 60-bed facility. And what we're dealing with now is community corrections is running around 50 to 54 people. There would be adequate room for the work release program to be instituted back into the sheriff's office.
Community corrections is definitely a viable asset to the community. I look at it a little different. It keeps them out of our jail. $122 a day plus the liability of maintaining these folks, it keeps them out of our jail. Now, it's a private company running it. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that we should be supporting and funding private entities with taxpayer dollars. We do a little bit with that. I do think that their success rates are very good as long as the people are in that program. I would like to see the success rates after they graduate from community corrections to see what they are after they get out, because we're seeing them back in our jail. The big problem I see with community corrections in Montrose is they're coming from outside of this community, 21st Judicial. They're starting to bring a bunch more people from Cortez and other areas, and then they come here, they go into community corrections, they go out to work, they commit a crime, they wind up in our jail, and then they're ours. They don't belong in Montrose. They belong in Cortez or wherever they came from. And that's the biggest problem I have with community corrections. Is it viable? Absolutely. For other reasons, in my opinion.
Next question.
Yes, earlier this year in Fremont County, a candidate for sheriff was discovered to have campaigned in a picture in his uniform. He initially withdrew from the race, and then he resigned from the department he was working for. On March 20th, you were both quoted in the Montrose Daily Press as saying that neither one of you has campaigned while you were on duty, and I believe one of you said that any allegations to the contrary were false. So I'm going to ask you right now, have either one of you campaigned in uniform or been shown in uniform or used your government vehicle to distribute yard signs?
I have not.
I have been accused of that. 3 different instances. Number one was that I was accused of having my photos as a police officer on Facebook. When I realized or found out that this was not the right thing to do, I took them down. 4 years ago when I campaigned for sheriff, that was not an issue at all. The second allegation was that I took my unmarked police car and went to the the Republican Central Committee meeting, which I did. It is a take-home car. I'm authorized to use it. I found out from the council in Washington that that is not the right thing to do. I have made amends and I have fixed that problem. It won't happen again. In uniform, as far as campaigning goes, the answer is no. I wore my gun and my badge on my day off, which I am supposed to wear as a police officer. It apparently offended some lady at the Republican Women's Party, or while I was there speaking. Since then, I do not wear my badge where it is exposed. I still wear a firearm, but I've learned that. I've talked to the council in Washington, D.C., and I've also been told that as of the 31st of May, my file is closed. There are no criminal charges. There's no civil charges. It will be a done deal. I learned a lesson, and I apologize for that.
Last question.
The TV is full of immigration issues. We have California playing its own game. If the federal immigration law is in place and the state of Colorado didn't agree with it, what role would you play in working with the feds?
I believe that we're supposed to enforce the law in the state of Colorado. I will back that. If we do pick up an illegal alien that has committed a crime, we take them to jail. As far as when they get to the jail, whether or not they're held on an ICE hold or whatever, we still charge with the criminal act or the criminal charges against that individual. We're not in any position, as far as the police department goes, as far as releasing or having any ICE holds on the immigrants too. But I believe if they break the law, they go to jail. Period.
ICE, that's a big topic around the nation. Sanctuary cities and stuff of that nature. El Paso County just lost a huge litigation over that very thing where they were holding illegal immigrants on ICE holds only. That's a lot of dollars coming out of El Paso County taxpayers' pockets. I believe here in Montrose we've been doing it the correct way. Out of our jail, we do have people that ICE puts a hold on for when they bond or when their court cases are over or something of that nature. You know, that like my opponent said, they're arrested for their criminal acts, but once they bond or once they're released, time served or whatever, we notify ICE in plenty of advance time for them to come from Junction and collect them at the front door. We don't bring them out in handcuffs. We walk them out the front door, hand the ICE agent their bag of stuff, and turn them over, and they do what they do with them after that. That keeps us from illegally detaining these individuals according to what Colorado law says. Now, do I agree with that? Not necessarily. But that's the way we mitigate the issue here in Montrose, and it's working very well.
Appreciate you all for coming tonight. I'd like to let you know a little bit about myself. I've been married to my wife Deb for 43 years. I have 2 daughters, Erin and Amber. I have a wonderful son-in-law who's sitting in the front row, and he's always giving me ideas on how to speak in public, so I should probably let him do that. I have a grandson that is the love of my life. He's a good little man. He's 6 years old. I believe strongly in law enforcement, and I believe in serving the people of Montrose and Montrose County. That's all I've done all my life. I've tried to be as good a steward for that as I possibly can. I will continue to do that if I'm elected as Sheriff of Montrose County. I will work with the people inside the Sheriff's office. I will make sure that their morale is better than it is now. I will also strive to be the best sheriff that Montrose County has ever had. So Thank you for the evening.
Well, once again, I would like to thank everybody for being here this evening and throwing out all those questions. Some of them, maybe not so much, but they're appreciated. I think we got down to some brass tacks on some things, and the immigration issue is a big one, like I said, and we appreciate that question strongly. And I think that, my lifestyle's been led around a lifestyle of total moral compass, I guess would be the best word. Growing up the way I did with the individual that I grew up with, I lend all my ethics and morals to that gentleman, and that's my dad. I do not waver on my ethics. I do not waver on what I believe. And I believe I do the right thing for the right reasons. And that's what being a sheriff is about. We all get along, we all get together. It's a necessity, it needs to happen, and we'll just keep driving for that and striving for perfection here in Montrose. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I'd like to thank the candidates for their time, and it is tough to have rapid fire questions back and forth in front of a lot of people, and I think we have a good idea of now where our candidates stand, so thank you very much for those hard-hitting questions. We have a couple of things. I think we still have a couple more cupcakes over there, cookies, is that correct? And then also we actually have a headquarters opening next week, right next to Demerit Park. The address, well, it's right next to the 242 on East Main Street. So come and visit us, it'll be open next week. And then we also have our meetings at the Montrose School Administration second Thursday of every month at 6, starting at 6. And then the Montrose County Republican Women meet the third Friday at 12 at the Hampton Inn. Thank you guys for coming, and hopefully see you at the meetings.